Not too long ago, I taught creative writing. And for my undergrad writing workshops, I would have the students read short stories as a craft study, examples of really good work that I thought that they could use to think about their own work. These short stories were from authors that I admire. I think some of their best work. And I don't want to necessarily list who they are for reasons that will become clear as I talk about this. But I would put all these stories in the syllabus. And it's not that they hated the stories. Oftentimes they really love the stories too. But I would be surprised by one detail. Most of my students didn't know who these writers were. And these are writers that have won multiple awards. Some of them at different parts of their careers could be called extremely successful. It wasn't the first seed of what I want to talk about now, but it was something I'd been thinking about and I understood for a while, finally snapped into focus for me. And it's something that I now use as a guide for my own career as a writer. There are different kinds of success. Part of the problem, as I see it, is that these writers weren't bestsellers. They might have been at certain parts of their career. And it's actually quite common for a writer to experience a brush with being on the bestsellers list and then return to a mid-list career, a career of selling well, but not necessarily topping the charts, right? There's so many people writing at any given moment. It's really hard to be on the bestsellers list. We spend a lot of time propping up the fame or fortune part of being a writer, despite the fact that most writers experience not that, or certainly not always that. Think about the actors that you've seen in a bunch of different movies and TV shows. And you recognize them when you see their face, but you don't know their names. In truth, those actors make up a larger percentage of the people working than the ones that you recognize. For most creatives pursuing art as a career, it is more useful to prioritize reliability over notoriety, progressive growth over splash. An example of this in the writing sphere is Colson Whitehead, who had 5 critically successful books before his award-winning, fairly recently adapted breakout book, The Underground Railroad. Or Emily St. John Mandel, who's had 3 books before Station 11. Hello from the future. So I'm here because past me is extremely bad when it comes to talking about himself. And I'm here to remind him that this is the whole entire point of this channel. To talk about my experiences as a writer and my experiences in publishing. If there's one thing that I think this channel can do, I think it can be a useful guide for other writers thinking about craft, but also thinking about, the life of being a writer. In order to do this, I have to get personal. And even though I'm uncomfortable with this, even though part of my job is to promote the work that I do, I still sometimes need a little bit of a push. So I'm here from the future to give myself a push and to do the incredibly cringy thing of showing you what I'm talking about personally. Okay, one sec. Okay. So this is my most successful book. No Gods, No Monsters is the first in a trilogy, a series called The Convergence Saga. Notice on the cover, there's this emblem here. This is the PEN Literary Award emblem. It's a long list award. That means this book was longlisted for the PEN Open Award. It also has a really nice quote from the New York Times. Riveting. A tender, ferocious book. No Gods, No Monsters has also been translated into French. Here's the French cover here. It's awesome. It has won a lambda. That's this thing behind me here. If you can see it. One second. It was also a finalist for the Shirley Jackson Award. Praise for No Gods, No Monsters. Masterful. Begins with a black man shot by police, then remarkably remains a human story about identity, even as the killing unleashes something new. From the Chicago Tribune. A page turner. An exciting plot full of characters, complex moral dilemmas, mystery, mayhem, with a bit of romance. That's from Forbes. A staggering achievement of literary craftsmanship. That's from Tor.com. This harrowing and lyrical novel combines elements of urban fantasy with biting social commentary. That's from BuzzFeed. Named a Best Book of the Year by the New York Times, NPR, the New York Public Library, Tor.com, Library Journal, and Kirkus. I want to note that none of the things that I listed here was bestseller. No Gods, No Monsters is not a bestseller. I think it might be classified as mid-list, maybe. A mid-list means that it sells well, so a well seller, a good seller. And I think, this is important to note. This book, despite having a ton of critically positive response, is extremely polarizing to readers. Some readers love it, some readers hate it. You can have a book be incredibly successful in one way, right? Critical response. And you can have it be not so successful in another way. Polarizing to the reading community. As I've continued to pursue this career as a writer, it's become more and more important to me, the career part of it. I don't know if I had any aspirations of being a best-selling author. I didn't think about that. And I didn't think about being an award-winning author either. What I really wanted was to publish books, right? To write books and to publish them. As I gained mentors and literary heroes, those other things became more and more aspirational goals. But I don't think there was not a moment in my career where I thought, oh, this has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, all of this is meaningless. To me, the objective was having the book, completing a project, going through all of the process of doing the project and seeing it in print. I also really love audiobooks, so I was looking forward to hearing it performed. Right. And those moments were more real to me than any of the things that came after. If those things came, I was very excited and blown away by those things, but they weren't the things that I was in there for. And so this is a lesson that I've been learning, and I've been learning it through my students, when I was teaching, through my writing, and through my relationship with other writers. Success looks a lot of different ways. You become a writer and you don't have a lot of control over those aspects of the career. You can't make a ton of people read your books, and you can't make your books win awards. Writing is incredibly unpredictable. Things take off and then things get really quiet. If you are looking for the highs, and that's your image of what a writer is, when the lows happen, it can be quite discouraging. It can sometimes be crushing. In all of these fields, in all of these creative fields, the person that endures, the person that is able to create some level of stability, is the person that treats it as a career, as work. It's the person that will work on a project and put it out, and people may or may not respond to it. But if a thing doesn't hit, they keep going. And that, to me, is a much more valuable, much more sustainable model for a career than having this meteoric rise and then a crash and burn that never recovers. If you do have a project where things take off, it's important at that moment and after to think about balance, to not let that take up the whole space in the room, and to let some opportunities potentially pass you by so that you can be solid. I know that this is like not glamorous advice. I know this isn't great, right? What I'm telling you is not a thing you might want to hear, but I think it's more valuable. This career is really, really challenging. Your best bet at surviving, and that's a strong word. Your best bet at enduring, also a strong word, but better, I think, is focusing on the career part of it, treating it as work, not as a thing that's going to get you infinite and endless validation. And I'm not saying this as someone that isn't guilty of this. I'm definitely guilty of this. But the value is in the work. Be excited about the things that you're creating. Be excited about your own definitions of growth. Be excited about the projects themselves, the thing itself, not what you might get from it. And you might get those things, and I hope you will. But don't let that take you off course from the thing that you got into this for. I think that a lot of writers, if you go back and you talk to them about the original inspiration, the thing that made them show up to do this thing, I think a lot of writers will tell you that they got into it because they love stories and they wanted to tell stories. Remind yourself of that. Through all of the ups and down waves, through the storms, through everything, that is going to keep you on course. And you might have to, at certain parts of your career, do other things because this career is tough. But I think if you remember the thing that you got into it for and that thing is still speaking to you, you'll be okay. It's going to continue to be a guiding light.